This week we're going to do something different, because when I posted this video I got this comment that sort of turned into a petition with more comments. And that's why we're doing pop-up cards today. They are lots of fun to make, they are super simple and
quite spectacular to see.
So let's not waste any time and let's just dive right in. For the pop-up part I have 12.5 centimeter or 5-inch square papers. I have another one in that size and a few more smaller ones. I'm going to fold all the papers in half, corner to corner. Do that again, corner to corner. And fold it once more. I'm using 120 grams paper, which is sturdy enough to make a nice flower, but you can still cut it. Next I'm going to draw a petal. I'm just going to sketch one by hand. And if you don't like sketching one by hand, then just take some kind of tool, like a roll of tape, works perfectly. Next I'm going to cut my flowers. I'm going to use that flower to make all the other flowers. I just use that as a template and I cut out the whole bunch. And once it's cut out, this is the flower you're going to get. Next I'm going to use some paint to color my flowers. I start with a really bright pink. I add a dot of paint in the middle of the flower and load up my sponge. And then I'm going to wipe it to the outside, turning my flower while I'm wiping from the middle to the tips of the flower. And it's a really fast and easy way to color a flower. And this is a nice color splash to start with. Next I have another light color pink and a big Holtz sponge. I'm just pouncing on the paint again to fill up my sponge, and then I'm going to pounce on the flower center to add some color in the middle. Next I have a bundle of cotton tips taped together with a piece of tape, and I have a darker color paint, and I'm going to add some more dark color in the middle for contrast. And to make all those colors pop even more, I have some ready-to-use ink. I've added that on an acrylic block. I'm going to spray a tiny bit of water to dilute it a little bit more so it's more splat ready. And then I'm going to use it with my brush, making some splats. I'm just tapping on the brush and you can see that this brings out the colors even more. And this is also a bit of an organic way to add some lighter color to your flowers, so it looks a bit more real. And once you have all your flowers colored, so the big ones and the smaller ones for decoration, I'm going to put those aside for now. And for my pop-up part, I'm going to cut away one of those petals. I'm going to add some glue to the petal next to the opening, and then I'm going to glue the two petals together. Next I'm going to fold all the flowers flat, and once I have them flat I'm going to add some marks where I'm going to add my glue. You don't have to make your marks, you only have to add the glue. The little cross marks the glue spot. And then I'm going to add my flower on top. I just add it sideways, one on the left and the other one on the right. And next my 3 glue spots. So I'm going to add some glue at the top 3 petals and I'm adding my next flower. Make sure to add your glue only at the top, don't glue the complete flower down, because then you will have a nice stack of flowers that will never ever move again. Next my 4 new spots to add some glue. 2 on the left, the middle open and 2 on the right, and I'm adding my flowers on top again. And then the last part, some glue at the 3 petals at the top again. And I'm going to add my last flower. I put that aside to dry, and then I have a green piece of paper. I folded that a few times so I can cut a bunch of petals at once. I'm going to just cut them by hand. And yes, I meant leaves. I'm doing leaves and petals. I just mix everything up. So I'm just cutting the leaves by hand. You can draw them if you want to, or just wing it. And look who's popping up. That's my little helper. Next I'm going to add some color to my petals with just a bit of paint on a sponge, wiping it from the beginning to the tip of the petal. And then I'm going to add my leaves to the back of the flower. I'm going to use the big ones for this. And make sure you only add some leaves to the flowers and not on the seams, because then it will be stuck again. Then I'm going to add some color to my card. I'm just scribbling away here. I'm using my Fineliners in 2 sizes. For a bit of variation and some simple doodling. Then I'm going to add my leftover flowers to the front of the card, and I'm just going to lay out the flowers and see which way I think they look best. And then I'm going to add some of those leaves to the back, and this will give you some really cool contrast. And I just play around with it a little bit to make a nice composition. And once I have all my pieces in place, I'm going to glue the flowers to my card. Now this is already a really pretty color splash. And then it's time to add that middle part. So my X's mark the glue spot again, adding some glue on those tips of the petals on both sides. I'm going to add the complete stack a little from the middle fold, about 1 centimeter. And then I just close the card and press it down. And this is what it looks like when you open the card. Isn't that a cool color splash? Now that was one way to make a flower pop-up card and color your flowers, but I have another way.
It's really simple.
Let me show you. Now maybe you're not into painting that much, but you have some markers. You can use those. I use the broad tip to color from the middle to the outside. I'm just wiping my marker over the flower. And then I'm going to go over the middle section again with the same marker to get a bit more depth of color there. And then I'm going to use a bit darker color to make an even more darker center, also for contrast. And now I have a bit of an unconventional technique. I'm just going to let my Posca Paint marker pounce on my flower. Let's just call this the point technique. I'm just letting it point on my flower, and that way you will get that white on your flower a bit organically and it's not too organized. Now for the flower I did the same. I cut away one petal and I'm going to glue those petals together. And for the leaves I'm going to do the same with my marker. I'm going to wipe it from the tip to the outside. It's a really fast and easy way to get some texture on your petals. And for the front of the card I picked one of those big flowers, number 8. And I'm going to add my green leaves to the back of the flower. And I'm using big ones and small ones, alternate. Once those leaves are in place, I'm going to add some foam to the back of my petals. And I'm using 1mm foam, but I think 2mm foam will give you an even better result. With some foam to the back and glue to the rest, I'm going to add my flower in the center of my card front. And then I'm going to add the pop-up part in the middle. And because I had some of those smaller flowers colored as well, I'm going to add those on the inside of the card too. And I think the extra added detail is totally worth it. And now you're ready to make your cards pop. So subscribe here, watch more here, and as always, make sure to keep on crafting.